Morning guys, just a quick update on the bike. Day 4 of our Spanish trip. It's just a trip that I put together down through Spain, 12 nights or 12 days of riding on the trail of El Cid. So we're just going down to Valencia, down Almeria, and then back up and round. I've got 20 bikes in total, which sounds a lot, but it's a lot of GPX self-navigation, small group work, 3 guides. I've got Duncan Goff here, who's a Spanish tour guide, so he's helping me with that. These bikes actually aren't with us. My group's over that way in a different hotel. They ran out of room, so I'm in a different hotel. But interestingly, just before I talk about the Rieju, these guys here, 3 of them, we saw them yesterday about half an hour out of Albarracin. And one could just come off on some gravel, and he put a hole in his crankcase, so lost all his oil. And he rang his recovery service back in the UK, which I think was Bennett's, and they don't recover or repatriate bikes that have been damaged in an accident, only a breakdown. So they basically said there's nothing we could do, tough luck. So it's interesting, isn't it? If you come to Europe, you get your breakdown cover, you think, oh okay, if I have an accident I'll be all right. No, you're stranded here. You know, you've got to find your own way. So those guys are going trying to get, which in fairness, it forces the person to think, how can I solve this myself? And they're going to patch up the engine. So try and get some plastic metal and then put some oil in, and it should be good to go. But if you had a proper damaged bike, I don't know what you do. You'd have to get a courier or write it off, or who knows what you do. But anyway, I'm sure some of you have had an experience like it. Albarracin is a beautiful town in the hills. We're sort of 2-3 hours west of Valencia now. There's a castle up on the ridge up there. So it's some great riding actually. Beautiful part of Spain. Not too busy. We're just out of season, being October, so it's a good time to come. A little bit wet yesterday, a little bit wet and windy. We got caught at the end of a storm, so a little bit wild, but all good. Right, a little bit on the Rieju Aventura. Not quite sure how to say it. People will correct me. Okay, so 500 twin, 47 brake horsepower, launching copy of the CB500X. So I get the impression that launching, whoever it is in China, has got some sort of pick and mix system where, as a manufacturer or a company, you can go to them and say, right, I want that engine, normally this 500X engine, or the ER6 Kawasaki derived engine or copied engine, licensed engine, and then you spec it how you want. But I think the Vosges 525, the Cove 510 all use the same engine, probably use the same chassis, swing arm, etc. So Rieju in this case, well, let's be honest, this is not a Rieju. It's got a Rieju badge on it, but this was a Chinese bike built in 2021. I forget the name. It's something GS500 that Rieju have bought and put their name on it. But this bike has been in existence since 2021. Obviously designed, manufactured in China, and then bought by a European brand to widen their portfolio. But I don't gather, and maybe somebody can correct me if they know otherwise, that there's not been any input from the European company Rieju other than specking the colour and the details and the stickers, etc. That's not to say anything bad about it. It's just to say that's the way it is. You know, Spanish engineered, I think it says on the advert for it. No, it's not. I don't, you know, it's a Chinese bike, and I don't think there's any shame in that. There's lots of good Chinese bikes coming through, so I don't think necessarily that's a bad thing, because it means you've got spoke tubeless wheels. It means you've got lots of standard equipment. Everything you see on here is standard, so crash bars, pivot pegs, I mean, proper. It's like they've got the AliExpress catalogue and put everything on it. Folding pegs. What else we got? Fully adjustable suspension with really nice, just easy clickers on that, both front and rear. We've got 190mm of suspension travel front and rear, and then obviously the piece de resistance is the 2 tanks, 20 litres and 20 litres. Now, we're in Albarracin. The last time I filled up was in North Devon, in Braunton in North Devon, 500 miles ago. So it is, I tell you what, it's a game changer. I never thought it would be. I was a bit like, well, it's just a gimmick, but it's not a gimmick. It transforms the way you perceive distance, travel and mileage. It's one less thing to worry about. It's one less thing to go in search of. I mean, yesterday I was riding with Simon with he's got a GSA BMW, and we had to go looking for fuel for him. The Rieju, no problems. So effectively, you've got 2 fuel gauges, and that's how you change between the tanks. That button there, when it's in, it's on tank 2. When it's out, it's on tank 1. And then you also have to just change that. So can you see it there? Where is it? Let's see if you can see it. You just have to change that as well as turn that. It's just a fuel cock. So obviously both lines plumb into the same pipe to the injector, I assume, and then that just switches it around. And that's, I'm not quite sure what that button does. Maybe what that actually activates, but both have got to be in the same position. Both on tank 2 for it to function. So technically 20 litres and 20 litres at the rear. And so I got sort of 250 miles out of the first tank, flashing red, and then 250 now out this second tank. The bike's got 530 miles on it. I left with 22 miles on it. So okay, it's just done 498 miles. Somebody who ran a demo said they got 600 miles on it. So whether that means it's always hard to know, isn't it, what a flashing red light means? How many more miles has got left in the tank? The only way to know would be to run that completely empty, wait till it starts to chug, and then switch to tank 2, or fill tank 2 and then run that draw empty to see what litres it takes to refill it. That makes sense. Otherwise, I've got illuminator switchgear. I like that. It's pretty functional. It's very similar to the Motor Marini, so I think a lot of this stuff's all coming out of the same factory because it's the same design, same button configuration. There are differences to the fluid reservoir and things, but yeah, you've got 12-volt charger there. Let me show you this side of it. I think this is its best side. I had a little drop yesterday. It blew over in the wind. It does stand quite upright, and it did. We came out of a cafe, heavy wind yesterday, and it was laying on its side on this side. Thankfully, I had my GoPro mount here, so that took most of the brunt. Bit of paint scuff there, bit of rub on the bar end, but she survived actually pretty well for a heavy drop in heavy winds with luggage on the back. Heavy to lift. So I weighed it with 2/3 of the main tank full and the second tank empty, and it was 220 kilos. I think fully fueled with 40 litres of fuel, we're looking at 240. So it's not a light bike, and to be honest, none of these bikes are light. And I think you've got to take into consideration when you're assessing weight. Well, yes, this is heavier, but it's got the crash bars, it's got the aluminium bush guards, it's got the sump guard as standard, it's got the centre stand. So if you compare it to, say, a Honda NX500, which has not got any accessories on it, that it's not going to be an equivalent comparison. What's it like to ride? I guess that's the main question. Is it a good bike to ride? What will it do? Well, it's a big bike. It's got big bike dimensions. Well, I guess it's a CB400X copy. Hold up. Good screen on it. Good tall screen. Just say decent angles. Nice upright sitting position. Sorry, I always get thrown off when somebody sees me talking to a phone. Quite high bars, so it's quite an open-chested stance, which I actually quite like. I'm finding I'm comfortable on it. The seat, initially I thought it's a 600-mile tank with a 60-mile seat, i.e. not very comfortable, but I am adapting to that. It's quite firm. But yesterday I had no problems at all. First few days I was a little bit tender down there on the backside, but yesterday fine. So it's obviously something you accommodate to, and would take a sheepskin or cool cover to improve. I think from an engine point of view, it's been running, it's still tight. I'm not winding it out. It needs a service today in Valencia. It's not got a great deal of excitement, and it actually feels less peppy than the 525 Vogue engine, although I imagine it's very similar. So whether it's going to warm up, open up, loosen up, hopefully a little bit. I mean, it's got enough power to project you along and propel you along at a reasonable speed. Is it ever going to set your pants on fire? No. I think with 47 brake horsepower and potentially 240 kilos of weight plus 20 kilos of luggage, it's never going to give great returns on performance, but it's enough to get you along. Suspension's good. It's a little bit firm, but I backed it off a little bit, so that's improved that ride quality. Tyres are decent. It's the CST tyres, the same as on the CF Moto 450 MT. And all in all, the handling's precise. It feels a well-made bike. You've got good clutch action, good throttle action, nice and smooth pickup. Fueling's good. Brakes are good, like the gradual pressure on the rear brake. That's nice. We've got twin discs up front, so that gives pretty good front block stopping power. People have said the lights are very good when they've got you in the mirror. So it rides really well. You can't fault the way it rides, and hopefully that engine just opens up a little bit. Got to watch that centre stand. It does catch on a corner, and I think when it dries out and we start pushing on, it is going to start grinding out a little bit. So that might need to come off. But for £6,500, for the fact I've got this like freedom to roam, that is, I tell you what, having 600-mile range or 500. is a bit of a game changer, certainly coming through rural Spain or any rural parts of the world where you haven't got the fuel stations that you've got in urbanised areas. It does take a bit of weight off your mind. It saves you having to worry about one less thing. So I think for 6.5 to have the way the bike rides, the way the bike looks, I think it looks great. And then to have that sort of real USP of range, I think it should have done better. It should have had more attention, because it is a unique bike. It's not as refined or as exciting or as charismatic as the CF Moto 450 MT. That engine sets that bike apart, and the rest of the package is really good as well. So I don't think it's as good dynamically or as enjoyably as a CF Moto, and it's not going to be as good off-road because it's not as light and low down weight as a CF Moto 450. But this is good in another way. It's good for the fact it feels like you could do lots of long distance road touring or gravel track touring or back road touring, and obviously have the benefits of the fuel, but also the comfort and the plushness of the suspension and everything else that goes with it. So look, it's early days, you know, it is an early day test this. It's just my first impressions, 500 miles. Don't forget, it's my bike, so I don't have to say anything positive about the bike, but I'm impressed with it. It is performing well, it looks good, and it's riding well. And I feel at 6.5 grand, actually, you've got a bit of a bargain. There's two chaps here, actually, who were the guy who crashed. I was parked up over there yesterday doing a little video on it. And they came over chatting because we were trying to help him get some plastic metal and stuff like that. And he said, "Oh, what's this?" You know, he not knew anything about it, and they weren't adventure bike riders. So I told him 40 litre tank, etc. And he went, "Well, how much does it cost?" I said 6.5. He went, 6.5? No way! What for all that? So I think strip away some of our anxieties or biasness against Chinese bikes or unknown brands, and actually just assess it as a product. Like, what is the product? What does it do? How much does it cost? It ticks a lot of boxes. It's actually a really strong product, and if you put this on a showroom floor, I mean, I think this is a shame. If you put this in front of a lot of people's eyes at somewhere like the NEC, and you put the price tag on it and you put the spec list on it, I think people would be very interested in it. Because it looks great. In the pictures I've taken of the bike, it looks fantastic. The coloured pops, you know, the plastics, it just looks a good, well-built bike, well-finished. You know, everything's nice on it. It's not cheap. So we'll see how we go. We've got another 1,000 miles in Spain, and it'll be on the A2 fleet. I have just put some dates up to coming down North Devon and ride my 47 brake horsepower or less adventure bikes, including CF Moto, Triumph, Himalayan 450, etc. So go on the Dorothy Speed Shop website for those. So you'll be able to ride this as part of that as well. So I think it's a welcome addition, because of all the twin-cylinder 500cc bikes, of which there are a few, the Benelli, the Cove, the Vogue, the NX500 Honda, this is by far the most exciting. You know, I like that Vogue 525, but it was just a copy of a Honda. It didn't do anything new. It wasn't excited. It was just a good copy. But this is different. This is new, excited, with a real big bonus to it, i.e. the tank range. So, yeah, we'll see how we go, eh? Right. Who are you? From Albarracin. Beautiful place. Beautiful place. Red Rock, actually. Where, you know what this Spain, middle of Spain and all this area and going south reminds me most of is America. That wilderness to roam, that emptiness, the vastness of the place and the loneliness of it. Like, there's no traffic on the road at all going through rural Spain. Just long, straight or winding, twisty roads. You know, it's a brilliant place to get lost on a motorcycle. And in fact, I know it's not a Spanish bike, it's a Spanish name on a Chinese bike, but the ethos of the bike I have in the range really suits the landscape of Spain. That ability to roam. It gives you a right to roam as such for having so much range. So actually I think it suits really well. Right, onwards. Cheers.